One message, one policy change. That was all it took for a loyal customer base to turn on a billion-dollar brand. Early boarding vanished, promises of lifetime status quietly rewritten, decades of emotional loyalty reduced to one line in an email. The backlash was instant. Today, you're going to hear from the neuromarketing pioneer who has spent 20 years studying exactly how moments like this go so badly wrong.
You know, you'd had that nice business class seat reserved for the last 6 months, and suddenly now you're, in the back seat of economy by the lavatory. No recognition of any of that. And I ran through AI, and the first recommendation was, if this hasn't been done yet, don't do it. This is a stupid idea.
I'm Chris Norton, and this is Embracing Marketing Mistakes, the show where senior marketers lift the lid on the bad calls, blown launches, and near disasters that reshape their own careers. Today, I am joined by Roger Dooley. Roger spent around 2 decades teaching companies how to use neuromarketing and behavioural science to improve their marketing, and even how they communicate inside the business.
Their problem isn't a lack of psychological principles. It's basic usability issues, user experience, customer experience.
He is the author of Brainfluence and Friction, and his brand new book, The Persuasion Engine, shows how generative AI can put behavioural science in the hands of you and any other marketer, not just the big brands, with labs and nudge units.
The Persuasion Engine is very tactical. Once we get into the second part that's about using behavioural science to apply AI to your marketing problems.
You'll also hear Roger's own mistakes as a founder and strategist, and how they change the way he builds partnerships, launches new ventures, and challenges executive thinking. Let's get into this week's show. Enjoy! Roger Dooley, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me on, Chris. I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, I'm thrilled to have this chat. I know we spoke a while ago about your new book that's coming out. I wanted to start there because obviously you've written a couple of books before and you're onto a new one. And this one's fascinating to me because you're using, you've sort of lent into AI and neuroscience, haven't you? So do you want to explain the theory behind the book and why you've written it?
Sure. For about 20 years now, I've been teaching companies and both large and small businesses how to use neuromarketing and behavioral science in their business to market better, to communicate better, to even smooth things internally. Because at the end of the day, we're all human, right? And understanding how humans work and how human brains work is important. The biggest problem that I had, though, is most of these tools for a long time were available only to relatively large organizations. They could afford behavioral science teams, sometimes called nudge units, or hire expensive consultants. They could sometimes even afford neuromarketing labs and conduct actual brain studies or other biometric studies on people reacting to their ads, their marketing, and so on. But for other size organizations, they were pretty much out of luck. They had to read the books, and there's some great books out there. Things like Robert Cialdini's Influence sold millions of copies, 41 years old now, I think, and still totally relevant. There are things like Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow. There's a huge amount of knowledge. There are many other good books too, but the problem is if you are a typical business person or a business marketer, you don't have infinite time. You've got a lot of priorities and never enough hours in the day. The 2 books I mentioned total over 1,000 pages. And imagine, first of all, having to slog through all that. And actually, they aren't really too much of a slog. Maybe Kahneman's a bit more than Cialdini's. But just trying to get through it and then remember what you read. And then, of course, try and consume some of the other great literature on the topic. There's not enough time. And trying to remember it all is impossible. So what's excited me is that the advent of generative AI, just in the last few years, has now created the ability for any size company, any size business to use these same tools and actually with great facility, because you can use it to everything from create plans to analyze what you're doing, analyze your competition, analyze your market. I mean, there's so many ways that you can use this. but in particular, you can use it to apply behavioral science in a variety of ways to make your marketing much more effective, and also to gauge your communications for their emotion and their empathy. We've seen so many examples of even huge companies communicating with customers in ways that go horribly wrong once the communications hit the customer and they don't land as intended. AI can help that in a big way.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me because like AI. We're talking about something that's very, very human, is human behavior, neuroscience, but using AI to interpret that data without having to engage in a human. So basically, what you're saying is like perfecting your messaging before you even get it in front of your perfect customer, your ideal customer profile.
Definitely. It's you clearly you can't just turn AI loose and say, "Hey, figure this out for me." It takes some effort. It takes very detailed prompting. It takes creating the context, creating the role for the AI, the role that you want it to perform. I think certainly having as much of your own company information in your market information as you can muster, your A/B test results, if you have them, your ideal customer profiles, if you have those things. If not, AI can help you create those. But either way, the more specific you can be, the more detailed, the better the results you're going to get. Because it's just like if you ask AI to write a blog post about increasing conversion rates, it'll write one for you, but it's not going to be very good. It's going to be very generic and not well done at all. But when you can give it a whole bunch of information about who your target audience is, what you've written about in the past, what you think the emphasis should be, and so on, and even what expertise it has specifically, then you can really get some great results.
So okay, so how are you expecting a business owner to use the book? Is it like more like a Bible, like a playbook of what to do? So like if I'm a business owner now listening to this, they can literally just pick it up. And is it like they can dip in it? Because I've skim read some of it, and they can sort of dip in it, and you talk about iteration and how to use iteration to get the right result. Is it sort of like, is that how you're thinking of people using it like a playbook to get the best out of what they're trying to do in terms of their marketing?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Chris. This book is far more tactical than either of my previous books. The other, Brainfluence, actually was quite practical, had 100 short chapters, each with sort of a business concept and idea that marketers could employ. Friction was a big picture book about how taking any unnecessary effort out of customer experience and even employee experience can lead to better results. But the Persuasion Engine is very tactical. Once we get into the second part, that's about using behavioral science to apply AI to your marketing problems, it really delves down into detailed prompts that somebody could type right in, or actually one thing that when the book launches will be available, I'll have a space in my website with copy and paste prompts so somebody does not have to type it all in or somehow scan the page and OCR it. They can just go there and not only get the copy and paste text, but if I've got some additional updates, those will be in that same place too. Because one thing that really scared me about this book, when you write a book about ideas, it can be sort of timeless. When you write a book about detailed tactics, then suddenly you realize that it's going to be obsolete very quickly. So me creating this little piece on my website for readers of the book to not only make it easier to apply the ideas, but even to get what has changed since the book was written, to me, that's my way of keeping it relevant and actionable.
That's cool. I mean, yeah, that was one of the things that would concern me about writing any sort of book on social, because I'm from the era of social media and social media marketing, and now we're still in the social media marketing era, I suppose, and now it's AI. And I always worried that if as soon as I wrote a book or wrote something, it would become obsolete and not be relevant, especially with like we're on now. I think the other day, ChatGPT launched 5.3, and then the day after it launched 5.4, and it's like, when's number 6 coming out? It's like a space race going on right now. So the fact that you've written something that is written in text that you can then refer to, I like the idea of having a link that you can refer to and go back, and it's even an updated version of a prompt. It feels to me like you've given yourself a load of extra work to do there, though.
Well, that's true, but to me, I think if it serves the reader, it's worth it because putting a book out there that just I knew would be somewhat dated by the time it hit the shelves didn't appeal to me. But at the same time, there are businesses that are looking for specific advice on how to do things right now today, and so this was my compromise. Put the book out there, and the basic ideas will certainly work. You could use those ideas and apply them, and even today they'll be valid. They'll be valid 6 months from now. Will they be optimal? Well, maybe not optimal, but they'll definitely be better than doing nothing. But by having that updated information available, I feel that I can really keep it relevant and also, stay in touch with my readers. One thing that I really love hearing is when I'm speaking at a conference and somebody comes up and says, "Oh, Roger, I read your book and I applied this idea and it really helped my business." There's no better feeling for an author to hear that kind of thing from a reader.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, so what's your top tip then that you could offer people if they listen to this? Obviously, you want people to go and buy a book and do that, but what's the sort of top one or two tips that you could give people that where they could really get make a difference with using your thinking to get a better result in their marketing?
Right. Well, I think that first of all, if you are not using behavioral science, or if you want to call it consumer psychology, or there's different terms that broadly cover the same area, applying how customer brains work to improving your marketing. If you're not already focused on that, then now's the time. And the good news is that you no longer have to read all of those books, although I do recommend them because to me, Chris, with AI, you still have to be the final arbiter of what you're going to put out there. As good as it is, it still makes mistakes. It still doesn't always come up with the optimal thing. And often the best thing you can do with AI is have it iterate different suggestions for you. And, then you have to be the one that chooses. And if you're flying completely blind, you're not going to make as informed choices as you would if you've got some idea. And also, of course, if you aren't careful about checking things, you can end up making mistakes. We've all heard the horror stories about the lawyer who submitted a case brief to the judge that was full of very impressive case references that actually were just hallucinations from the AI. That issue is getting better now, but still, it isn't always right. And so I guess for my one tip, if you aren't using behavioral science, psychology in your marketing, then certainly now's the time to do it. But assuming that you are, use generative AI, whether it's Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini, and use it to apply different principles. Have it look at your web page if you're working on your website. Have it analyze it for what kind of psychological triggers it's using already. You can have it analyze your competition to see what kind of triggers they're using, and then come up with a plan for you to improve what you're doing. And the one caution I have there is, I've often been called in by businesses to sort of sprinkle some behavioral science dust on their website or their operation, saying, "Oh, hey, yeah, we really need to apply these ideas." And what I find when I get there is that their problem isn't a lack of psychological principles. It's basic usability issues, user experience, customer experience, where the customer gets lost at a certain point in the process. You can't find the buy button, or there's something that's confusing, or there's things that are off-putting to the customer. And it's important to look at those things before you say, okay, let's really up the sophistication of our psychology. But AI can help you with that too.
Yeah. So obviously you've written 3 books. What do you do in your day job then, Roger, to help? What sort of services do you provide?
Actually, most of what I'm doing today is writing, speaking. I've got a YouTube channel, and I do very, very limited consulting. To me, that is not my ideal lifestyle. And often I found that consulting gigs end up creating a big old report that somebody puts on their shelf and never uses. To me, I prefer working on the content side of things. And content sounds pretty sterile, but really getting ideas out there that are going to help people, maybe sometimes be provocative. I write a Forbes column that usually I've got probably 4 or 5 articles a month at least, sometimes more, sometimes less. And so to me, I really enjoy getting ideas out there in the marketplace and seeing which ones fly.
Okay. And so, what would you say has changed, like in neuroscience in the last? Because the brain doesn't change, does it? I mean, we're seeing all these stories about the fact that it seems we're talking about artificial intelligence. It's I've seen stories now breaking out that that people aren't thinking for themselves, and because the AI is thinking, that we might be turning off neural pathways in our brain and getting more stupid. Which is that a reference? I think that's what how people are talking about it. Is that true, or is that just media hype? And what do you think?
There is an element of truth in it. And I think we can look at an example of navigation in automobiles. Now, if I'm going to go someplace, I don't map it out. I ask Waze or Google Maps, okay, how do I get there? And it tells me where to turn right, where to turn left, and so on. And when I get there, somebody says, well, oh, which route did you take to get here? And I don't know. I followed the directions that she was giving me on my phone. I'd contrast that with some studies of London black cab drivers. These were done some years back, but they found that, of course, London black cab drivers are required to get their license. They are required to have this extensive knowledge in their head of London streets. They have to be able to find all these nooks and cranny alleys, and purely from memory, no navigation units. And what they found was that actually there were parts of their brain that grew from having all that sort of spatial memory required. And of course, the same thing happens with musical instrument players like violinists. The parts of their brain that are attached to, say, their fingers that are constantly fingering the strings, those parts of the brain change and grow. So there are brain changes that take place, and I have not too much doubt that if you consistently use a tool for something, whether it's AI or something else, that part of your skill set may atrophy a little bit, because when I was in my younger days, I was actually a rally navigator on automobile rallies where you're flogging cars through the woods and whatnot, and you're telling the driver where to go. And so my navigation skills are pretty good, but I guarantee you, with the advent of nav systems in the last 5 or 10 years, that part of my brain has definitely atrophied.
I usually think, I mean, that's fascinating. First point, I was in London this weekend, and I actually saw a lot of black cabs. Most of them are electric now, which fascinates me, because I lived in London a few years ago now, but obviously everything's changing with the cabs. Most of them are electric now. And then also on the roads, while I was in London, I saw the first, and I don't know how long they've been there, the Google Waymo cars, the AI cars driving around, which I didn't think. I've seen them in LA, but I didn't realize they're already. I haven't seen them in the flesh in London, basically. And I have heard that
we have them here in Austin.
Are they?
Yeah, we have both Waymo and actually Tesla autonomous cars here in Austin.
Yeah, what do you think of them?
I have yet to take a ride in one because I live in kind of a suburban area that is not in their current range. They are working only a limited part of the city where they've got it well mapped and everything. So they haven't yet penetrated out into our area yet. And I keep saying, oh yeah, I've got to go drive it myself into their range somewhere and then take a ride just for the experience. But they're doing very well. They've had a few accidents, but usually it turns out that when there's some kind of a problem, it was actually some human error other than the Waymo thing itself.
Yeah.
There's an issue where Waymo drove around a school bus that had its arm down and its flashers on, which is illegal to do. It's a traffic violation if you do that, because obviously it's very dangerous for the kids. And it turned out that the bus had been stopped for a long time, and the car contacted a human at headquarters, wherever they monitor these things, saying, is this actually a stopped school bus? And the human told them no. So when it drove around and it triggered a camera that caught it driving around the arm, it turned out that it was actually a human error, not the Waymo error. Not that they never make mistakes, but I think if you compare the accident rates to human accident rates, there's no comparison there. the autonomous cars are much better, much safer.
I know it's crazy. I mean, the American roads are much bigger. In Europe, obviously, London's narrow streets. I used to have to drive. I used to work on a night time in London. When I lived down there, I used to DJ in Soho, which is like the West End. And I used to have to drive through all the streets, which was at 9 p.m. I mean, I saw some right sights, I can tell you. But so I'd learned the way to get round the West End bits, but I don't know the whole of London. I mean, to know every bit of London is insanity. I don't know how anybody could learn all those different streets. I used to spend my whole time looking at an A to Z, but now we've got Google Maps, like you say.
Right. Well, the black cab drivers do it, and actually, part of my I have two views on that. First of all, I'm thinking, okay, you no longer have to spend 2 years training and practicing and studying to drive a cab. If you're an Uber, you can get behind the wheel and fire up the Uber navigation app, and you're good to go. But that's one side of it. The other side is when I have taken a black cab in London, the drivers have also been very knowledgeable. If they're taking you to a particular venue, they will say, okay, I'm going to drop you off here. You want to go around to the side because there's an entrance there that will be convenient and won't have a line. Things like that your Waymo or even your Uber drivers are going to tell you.
Yeah, and the stats are like the Tesla. I think Tesla, and I'm going to be probably quoted wrongly here, but I swear somebody said that Tesla's autopilot is the Tesla Model 3 is the safest car on the road, apparently, which is because it's got the autopilot. But I bet I need to check that statistic. So okay, so if you were looking at the marketing landscape today, then where do you think organizations are still misunderstanding how people actually make decisions? Because do you think people make decisions differently to what we expect them to?
Well, I think they do, at least certainly there are savvy marketers and leaders who have a pretty good grasp of human nature and human behavior. But, I see so many examples of even really high-level executives making decisions or sending communications, changing policies that they clearly don't understand how real humans are going to react to those. One of my favorite examples, just last year, Carnival Cruise Line, they're a big corporation, and they've got about half a dozen brands of cruise ships, but the biggest one is Carnival itself. And they had a problem to deal with. They have loyalty levels like many companies do, and the higher loyalty levels where you've cruised maybe hundreds and hundreds of days get better benefits. They may get early boarding. They may get invited to a captain's party. They get special things like luggage tags and pins they can put on their chest and so on if they want. And Carnival had a problem, though, because they had so many high-level loyalty members, so many elite members, that it was starting to not work properly. If half the ship gets early boarding, then there's nothing special for early boarding. Same thing if you can't fit everybody in the room for the captain's reception, then it's not very special. So they decided to revamp it, and they sent out their new policy, which said, okay, our lifetime diamond members, these are people who have been cruising in some cases for 20, 30 or more years to earn this lifetime diamond status. And they were told it was lifetime status. We weren't really, we were just kidding about lifetime. We're going to keep you at your status for the next few years, but then you'll have to spend $32,000 every 2 years to retain that status. And that's far, far more than the average Carnival cruiser would spend. They're kind of an entry-level cruise line, a budget cruise line. And so basically they were saying after this grace period, then you're done. You're dead to us. And not only that, they basically said, we're not going to do pins anymore. We're not going to do luggage tags. We don't need that frou-frou stuff, I guess. And, the blowback was enormous. I posted about this. I wrote about it at Forbes. I posted a couple of YouTube videos about it. And the feedback that I got from actual Carnival customers was really very heartfelt and sometimes painful. It's like, my wife and I have cruised this line for 35 years. We finally achieved this. and now they're kicking us to the curb. Another person said, it's like my wife of 30 plus years suddenly said, okay, hey, it's been nice, but I'm leaving you for somebody who can spend more money on me. And this is the emotional reaction that what the executives who instituted this policy change fail to recognize is that loyalty is an emotional thing. It's not just a transactional thing like, okay, you do this for us and we give you these specific benefits. People identified with it. They were carnival people. It was a part of their own identity. They wore their little pins proudly. And so just to say, goodbye to all of that, it really caused them a tremendous problem. Ultimately, a few months after that, they ended up reversing course, and they at least changed some of the policies. They let their most elite cruisers retain their status and kept some of the other little benefits too. So, but I mean, they could have avoided that whole thing. When I ran that announcement through AI, it predicted what the customer reaction would be or what some customer reactions would be. And I've done that with other communications. And executives often don't realize how what they say and what they're going to do is going to land with real human beings. And often too, there may be somebody in that room who knows in that when they're making the decision, but often once a leader gets it going that, okay, this is the course we're going to take, people don't necessarily feel empowered to speak up and disagree. And I think that's, in addition to AI, it's good to take advice from humans too. When you're even sort of the lower, maybe lower ranked people in the back of that conference room, ask them what they think, how they think customers are going to react, because they may be closer to it than the CFO, for example, who's focused on the numbers, a CEO who's focused on shareholders and the investment group that's pressuring them and everything else.
Yeah, it sounds really, really obvious now that you can just create a customer profile, so your perfect customer profile, or your current customer with all your data that you've got on your customer, pump it in and say, we act as the marketing team. This is a message that we're going to put out, and score which of these messages is best. That sort of thing. You could really, really stress test everything that you're doing. That's what you're basically recommending, isn't it?
Absolutely. Another example, also from the cruise industry, oddly enough, Royal Caribbean is another giant cruise company, Carnival's biggest competitor. And somebody at headquarters had a brilliant idea. We're going to bring together 3 ships, one from each of our brands, in the middle of the ocean and do a photo op. So, we're going to have to reroute ships a little bit, but they said, okay, well, we're going to do this. It ended up that of the 3 ships, one of them, the smallest ship, was Silver Sea Nova, which is a 6-star luxury cruise line, only 700 passengers. But these people spend tens of thousands of dollars a year, many of them, occasionally even hundreds of thousands a year on cruising. They're not cruising for a week a year or 2 weeks a year. They're going on month-long cruises. They're going on world cruises that take half a year and so on. These are by far their highest revenue customers, their best customers. They rerouted this ship in a way that it delayed its arrival at its debarkation port, where everybody gets off the ship and goes to the airport to get their airplane home, by 4 to 5 hours, which basically screwed up everybody's travel schedules. And so in the middle of their cruise, these people were suddenly having to figure out, okay, how am I going to change my flights? Can I make my flight? No, probably not, because I'm arriving 4 hours later. And in the middle of their cruise, and this is luxury cruise, you've got every suite has a butler who'll deliver you champagne and caviar. And instead, they're on their phones trying to connect to ship's Wi-Fi to contact their travel agent or their airline or whatever. So the marketing asset they got out of this was about an 8-second video where you see it was from a helicopter, which I don't know what flying a videographer in a helicopter out to the middle of the ocean cost, but that couldn't have been cheap. They sort of they pan across first the big Royal Caribbean ship, then behind it in the distance is a Celebrity ship, and then finally way back in the distance there's this tiny little Silver Sea ship. Now, I don't know who thought that was a great idea. The duration of the video was about 8 seconds. I don't know that they were actually able to make any good marketing use out of that. I don't know why. It seems like a vanity project, but couldn't they have done that with AI or Photoshop or something? It's really wild. So I ran that. I ran the communication. The worst part was the way they communicated this showed no empathy for the customers who were having to suddenly interrupt their cruise to fix their travel plans. And it was just hey, we're going to be doing this cool photo shoot. It's going to be fun. Well, we're going to have a celebration on the pool deck where you can, watch it. And they made it sound like it was something really good. They said there will be a course deviation that will delay our arrival by 4 hours. And if your travel agents travel arrangements need to be adjusted, you'll have to do that. And if you incur additional airfare cost, if it's reasonable, and if you let us know in 30 days, we'll reimburse that additional cost. But there was no recognition at all of the emotional impact of that. It's not, these people don't want to be reimbursed for the additional airline tickets. Plus, this is in the middle of Florida spring break when all the airplanes are full, all the hotels are full. So trying to redo your travel plans then, you'd had that nice business class seat reserved for the last 6 months, and suddenly now you're, in the back seat of economy by the lavatory. No recognition of any of that. And I ran through AI, and the first recommendation was, if this hasn't been done yet, don't do it. This is a stupid idea. I'm paraphrasing here, but this is the worst idea ever. But then I did have a craft better letter, and the letter was really, instead of the tone deaf thing that the cruise line sent out, it was very empathetic. It recognized the disruption in their travel plans and the disruption in their experience. It offered some additional compensation, which of course there's a business decision made. They can't just say, well, we're going to give everybody a free cruise, but that's the business part of the decision. But it went beyond this sort of very sterile, we'll reimburse your additional costs if they're reasonable, to something, our people are standing by to assist you should you need help rearranging your travel, and a modest future cruise credit. And most of all, just recognizing the impact on these customers and saying, hey, we get it, that this is disruptive to you. And that applies to any kind of communication. That's a moderately important communication, not as big as, say, changing your entire loyalty policy for a big brand, but even very small communications. Like everybody who has customers has some standard templates for, hey, your order is delayed, sorry, or your order shipped, or thanks for the order. You can run even those templates through the same kind of process to optimize them so that they really land well emotionally. I mean, especially if they're transmitting bad news, like, you're going to have to cancel your order because the product was out of stock and isn't available. But even just positive things like, hey, thanks for your order. Just really make it land well. And AI is very good at that. Not too long ago, maybe 8 months ago, last year, scientists ran an experiment where they gave an emotional intelligence test to humans and to various AI models. And this is even models that aren't even as good as today's. The AI models scored in the 80s on the test, where humans were in like the 50s and 60s range on the test. So AI doesn't have emotion. It can't feel empathy, but it has studied so much. It's read so many nonfiction resources. It's read books, fiction books. It understands human emotions better than most humans.
I mean, that's amazing, isn't it, really? I literally travelled on Royal Caribbean just last year. We had a helicopter come out to us because somebody, it was a nasty accident, actually. I think somebody fell off one of the decks onto the next one down. I don't know why. I didn't see it all, and it's a big ship. I think it was Anthem of the Seas we were on, and we had a helicopter. They did do an announcement where they said we're going to have to go in close to the to land. So the boat sort of because it goes around the coasts and things. It came in close to the coast, so the air ambulance could come out, and they literally flew in down and then landed it, and then got somebody off this patient and took them off. I mean, that can't have been cheap, and I hope they had holiday insurance, because that would have been an expensive expedition out into the middle of the sea, like you've said. But you're right. I mean, having some sort of stress testing. Because I've been in crisis management since I've started my career 25, 28 years ago. I've been in my bag is crisis management, and some of the things that we've had to put out, like statements to the media. I mean, having AI to test statement testing is just something that is an absolute game changer in that you can just test things and see how it looks and how it feels. And the other thing, to go back to your emotional side of things, we've got a brand in the UK called Octopus Energy, who do a lot of that do like electric and gas, and I've actually got Octopus Energy, and I heard the head of customer service talking about the fact that they were using AI in their customer service emails, and because there's no emotion involved in the ego side of, oh, this email's getting on my nerves, or whatever it is, when you get a nasty email or a complaint, it removes the emotion and analyzes the emotion and appeals to that person. It said it had improved customer service satisfaction by something like 14-15% from 60s to the 80s. So, yeah, it's really interesting, because there is no ego in AI yet. Anyway, there isn't yet, is there? But it's brilliant at that. So if you can use it for some sort of emotional intelligence, it's a massive tool in your toolbox as a marketer, isn't it?
Definitely, and I love that example that you gave. The just changing these routine emails to make them take negative human emotion out of it, and hopefully add a little bit of empathy where necessary, where somebody is having a problem and maybe they're blowing up at you, but they're mad because they have a real problem and it hasn't been fixed yet. So by taking the emotion out, as you say, of the response, but putting the right emotion into it, that's really a huge benefit. And I love the fact that they actually have the statistics to show the improvement in satisfaction. I'm not surprised by that, but that's really good to know.
Well, yeah, they were saying that it's just had a phenomenal effect, and actually, I can see why. Like sending, especially if you work in customer service, anybody that works in customer service, getting RC emails all day is quite grinding, isn't it? Because people just complaining. I had one recently, my mobile phone. I've got a Samsung phone. It's 3 years old, so I ordered a new phone the other day from this company who shall remain nameless. And I ordered it, and it was getting delivered by DPD. I don't know if you have DPD in America. Do you have DPD in America? Anyway, they've released recently in the BBC, did a big investigation on DPD and things going missing in DPD. Anyway, ironically, I'm getting the new Samsung phone. I'm delighted because my battery's knackered on my Samsung, and it got lost, and it got lost, and I didn't realize till 5 weeks I still hadn't received it. So they didn't contact me. I contacted the company, and they were like, "Oh, have you not received it?" No. So then I had to wait 3 days while they checked it with the delivery company, and they've said they've delivered it. I said, "Okay, can you ask them for evidence?" They couldn't find any, and he said, "We get this all the time." And so it was missing, and now I haven't got my phone. I've paid for it. I haven't got my phone, and I still haven't got it 7 weeks later. And the customer service team said, "Oh, sorry, the new one's just come out last week, so we haven't got any other one that you've ordered." I said, "Well, can you send me the new one then?" "Oh, no, we can't do that." So I was like, I'm caught in a rock and a hard place. So I've paid all this money. I've signed a 2-year contract for their phone. And I was like, they were like, "Well, all I can do is allow you to make a complaint." I was like, "Yes, I'd like to make a complaint." And then 2 weeks later, I've still not got a resolution. And it's like things like that is where surely AI can help and solve problems, because I'm not that angry. I just want my mobile phone because the one I've got is knackered, and I ordered a new one. It's not arrived, and I've had to ring them 8 or 9 times. It's just like, life admin is painful. But their customer service, to my point, is their customer service wasn't very like, "Oh, sorry about that." They still haven't told me that if they're going to sort it out yet. I'm still waiting. So yeah, I think AI can definitely help with that. Roger, mistakes, this show's about mistakes, and we ask people if they've ever made a mistake in their career and what have they learned from it. So in the world of neuroscience, I mean, I don't know how you can make a mistake in the world of neuroscience, but have you made any mistakes in your career that you're willing to share with the listeners?
Well, yeah, I've had a long career, so I probably made more mistakes than most people have. And I guess trying to look at mistakes that one can draw a business lesson from, one comes to mind was starting a partnership, a business with two other individuals without really a good partnership document that defined roles and expectations and so on. And within a few weeks, one of the partners just kind of stopped participating. And the good news is the company itself was doing pretty well, despite that lack of participation, or maybe because of he wasn't necessarily a great contributor. And we were at a point where he owned a third of the company, wasn't doing anything, and I had to have a very difficult sort of cram down negotiation where it was, look, either we're going to reduce your share, or we're going to figure this out some other way. We're going to end this company now, and you'll have nothing. And it ended up he still retained some share of the company. When we sold the business many years later, he ended up actually getting a really nice payment out of it for doing absolutely nothing for the entire thing. And the lesson I took from that was, you're starting off something. This was almost a little lark of a venture. We really didn't think it was going to go anywhere. It was just kind of a fun thing to do. And by not really doing it right, setting it up right to begin with, we really handicapped ourselves. And that's one mistake I'll never repeat. If I get involved in any sort of shared ownership thing, everybody who's involved will have expectations and performance criteria, and their continued maybe an equity vesting process or something that solves that problem. But that's one mistake, I think. And the other mistake I think that many entrepreneurs have made is assuming that because you have succeeded in one area, that you can translate that success very easily into another area. And an earlier company I had was a direct marketing business, a catalog company. We were in the home computer space. We're selling software products, hardware products, and so on. And we were doing reasonably well there. We had a pretty good grasp of direct marketing. We were doing quantitative stuff that most companies our size were not doing. So we thought, okay, we're pretty smart about this, right? And we saw what we thought would be the next big thing, which was home automation. It was just starting to come make a splash. There were some huge projects out there. Builders associations were forming big technical committees, and huge companies, General Electric and Philips and others, were getting involved. So we said, okay, we could dominate this space if we had the magazine in that space, because we had seen that exact same thing happen in our space. Our biggest competitor was the company that had all the users subscribing to their magazine, so they could just market directly almost for free to them. So we said, okay, let's start a magazine for that space, and we did. And unfortunately, the translating the direct marketing success in the computer space to direct marketing magazine subscriptions did not make an easy transfer. So the business did not do well. It was a good concept. The market was slow to take off. That didn't help. It was, despite all this effort by the big companies and brands and so on, there really wasn't that much of a market for it. And so after 6 years, we ended up selling it, for next to nothing after investing a fair amount of money into building it. Although the one good thing that I'll say is that was like, 40 years ago, and the magazine still exists today.
Wow.
Under its the people that bought it. So we had the right idea. We were just a little bit early.
You were
like
pioneers.
really early. Yeah, but I mean, I think our conceit was that, hey, look, we can market this thing, so we can market this other thing, because we're smart marketers, not recognizing that the way you do it, the criteria for success, and so on are totally different.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, any entrepreneur out there, anybody that's running it, we all fail all the time. Like literally, marketing is literally a plethora of mistake after mistake, and compounding on top of the mistakes, and making sure that you do those micro-isms better and better and better. But in terms of when you're founding companies and companies going, going under or not working. The fact that the magazine is still going after 4 years, I'd say you've done all right there. Do you read it then?
Well, no, actually I don't. But I just appreciate the fact that it lasted that long, which it sort of validated that there was an idea there. I just needed the right owner, perhaps, who knew how to properly scale it. And of course, we ended up. It's sort of like the guy who builds a really expensive club, a restaurant. Puts millions of dollars into we didn't put millions into this, but put a fair amount of money in, into a facility, and it's a beautiful facility and everything. But then they go bankrupt. They sell to somebody else who doesn't have to make that investment. They can make it profitable, and that was sort of what happened here. The purchase price wasn't that bad, and they apparently knew what they were doing too, which that helped a lot.
Mm. So you've spent your whole career like learning from people and how people make decisions. Does that affect how you make decisions? Because you've been watching how people do it?
I wish I could say yes, that I'm much wiser having studied how other people make decisions. I'm not sure that's totally true, although I have learned now with AI that I can get feedback on decisions and advice on decisions. Not that I'm always going to take it or believe it even, but it's like having somebody else in the room with you, where you can say, "Hey, I've got this idea. What do you think?" And bat it back and forth, and sometimes say, "Well, okay, you make a good point." Other times say, "Well, no, I disagree with you. I'm right." But regardless, I think, to me, from a decision-making standpoint, any significant business decision now, I would probably be, in addition to asking the people around me, I would probably ask one of the smarter AIs who knows a lot about the space. Obviously, you'd have to know. You have to give it a lot of background information and everything else. You can't just hit it cold with a 20-word prompt. But to me, you can't treat it as an oracle that's going to be right. But in terms of people are wrong all the time too. If you're in say a meeting of your leadership meeting of your small business or whatever, even large business, and go around the table, people are going to have different opinions. Everybody's not right. But as a leader, you have to sort out, okay, is there a consensus of opinion, or is there one opinion that really seems to make more sense than the other ones? And to me, dealing with AI is the same. You can't just accept its advice, but it's another source of advice, another source of ideas. Maybe it'll think of something that you hadn't thought of.
As AI continues to evolve, what excites you most about the future of behavioral science in marketing then?
Well, I think that we're going to see AI taking over more of the role. Like right now, a lot of it is creating a prompt to get advice on something, or get a design for something, or get 10 ideas for something. But I think that AI now, with its agentic capabilities, will be doing more, where you can go out and pretty much on its own look for, what the competition is doing, look for ideas in the marketplace, look for other things, and then come back to you with things for you to review. So we can take over some of the roles that you would be relying on people for. But what that's going to look like exactly right now, I can't tell you. But I mean, to me, that's where the growth is. We're moving beyond just prompting AI into creating AI tools that kind of do their own thing under your direction.
Yeah. I mean, neuroscience and AI is just, pardon the pun, it's mind-boggling. It really is. And so if I realise I've taken up quite a bit of your time, so I just wanted to ask you, so what's the one story in your book right now that you think that, or one message that people should take from this book that you've written, and why should people buy it?
I think the theme that pervades the entire book is that now neuromarketing and behavioral science marketing have been democratized. The world is different today than it was just, say, 4 years ago. Before, these were expensive tools that were only accessible to not only large companies, but only for important projects in large companies. You could be working for a big brand, but if you're in a small marketing office for a minor product somewhere, you don't get to ask the nudge team questions or use the neuromarketing labs. You're just like a small business marketer operating on your own. And now these tools are available to anybody. And that to me is the thing. It's just an entirely different world. That pervades the entire book. Even some of the tools for traditional neuromarketing that used to require labs, now they can be done in some cases with remote devices like iPhones and tablets and such, or they can be done even by AI simulations instead of bringing real humans into a laboratory setting. So to me, just this whole area is now accessible to everybody. The tools are there. They just need to use them.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, you're preaching to the converted here, but people out there should definitely stress test their ideas. So, Roger, you've been on the show now, and you've told a couple of your mistakes. If you were us, who would be the next person that you think we should interview on this show? And hear their mistakes. Who would you recommend?
Boy, I don't know if it's good to nominate somebody for their mistakes. Usually I don't even know most of the mistakes people make, and if I did, I probably wouldn't want to suggest them for having made a particular mistake. I was going to suggest remember that you said you were in crisis management, Chris. I remember the BP CEO after the big well blowout in the Gulf of Mexico, where like 11 people died and there was massive environmental destruction and so on. And the CEO told a TV interviewer that he wanted his life back. I think probably that's one that he would take back, but I doubt if he's available for interviews. I don't know if he's still around.
A good suggestion. I used to teach my class at uni. I used to teach my students the BP example as because the way that they dealt with the problem. Obviously, it's awful what happened, and it was a tragedy with all the stuff that can happen down the coastline. But the way it was just a fascinating case study on how to deal with a crisis, and when you've got real money behind you, the fact that they were buying the PPC terms to all the phraseology and everything. So if people were searching for whatever it was, oil spill, whatever it was all directing it to the greener messaging, and it was very, very cleverly, if not very financially expensive. It was very, very cleverly done. There was good bits, and obviously in the crisis management aspect of how they dealt with it. I used to teach it just to break it down, but obviously, that bit where you said that was an absolute gaffe, wasn't it? Great, Roger.
If Claude had read his comments before, I think Claude would have said, "Yeah, don't say that."
I mean, there's a million things that I'd like to run. Why do you think I've got a podcast about mistakes? I could do with it running through everything that I write every day. I make a million mistakes every day. Roger, thanks so much for your time. If people want to get hold of you, how can they find you to book you or whatever? But what's the best way to get hold of you?
I think the two places to go first would be my LinkedIn profile. I'm real easy to find on LinkedIn just by searching for my name. And I do interact a lot there. And also my primary website is rogerdooley.com. And that has links to my YouTube channel, my Forbes column, and so on.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Roger. That was absolutely brilliant.